One of my all-time favorite foods is pizza, and I love making it at home. So down at my local grocery store, I found some pizza dough that's already made. But as I can see that it already has some oil in it. Or I could also get those pre-packaged pizza crusts, but that has oil and it also has some dairy products in it. So, you know, pizza dough is really not that difficult to make. It just needs a cup of warm water, 2.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of sugar, and a package of dry yeast. And it's really kind of fast and simple. So let's go ahead and get started on the yeast. So like I said, making pizza dough from scratch is really not that difficult as long as you pay attention to a couple details. Now I have 1 package of dry yeast, 1 teaspoon of sugar. Now the reason I put the sugar in there is because I need the yeast to have something to feed on. Now here's the important part of it. I've got a cup of warm water and I picked up one of these inexpensive thermometers. I need it to get to about 110 degrees. All right, that's 110 degrees right there. So we'll go ahead and put this into the mix. Give it a little bit of a stir. Now we're gonna go ahead and let this sit for 10 minutes. Okay, so my yeast is doing its thing. I'm gonna go ahead and make up my flour mix. I've got 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and then I like to put in 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up. Okay, that's all mixed up pretty good. My yeast has been sitting for about 10 minutes. It's time to go ahead and add it to the flour. We'll just go ahead and stir this in. It smells good already. Okay, so this is looking really good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let this sit for about 5 minutes. Okay, I've got parchment paper on top of a cookie sheet, and then I just sprinkled a little bit of flour. This dough has been sitting for about 5 minutes, so let's go ahead and start rolling it out. I like to get a little bit of flour on top of it just to kind of mist it down a little bit. Now you can do this by hand, but I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of roll it out with a rolling pin. I like to start in the middle and just kind of work my way out and just keep working it. Now, I like to roll mine out kind of thin, but that's all up to you. So you can see I've got it about, maybe a 1/4 inch, maybe, somewhere in there. But I like it kind of thin, but that's completely up to you. The next thing I like to do is sometimes when I cook this in the oven, I get a little bit of bubbling, and I kind of want to keep that to a minimum. So I'll just go ahead and put a couple fork marks in there. There. Now, I usually like to pre-cook my crust just a little bit, so I put them in the oven at about 475 for about 5 minutes. Now, pizza sauce is actually kind of simple to make. I'm going to use 1 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, 1 6-ounce can of tomato paste. I got a tablespoon of oregano, a teaspoon of paprika, and a teaspoon of garlic powder. So I'm going to go ahead and mix these together. Get my tomato paste in there. My oregano, paprika, and my onion powder. And we'll go ahead and mix this together. And there you go, that's a very basic pizza sauce. Now you can add any kind of spices that you like. I know I've heard some people like to put in a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, you know, whatever it is that you like. But this is a very basic pizza sauce. You know, the fun part about pizza is you can put just about any kind of topping you want on it. It all depends on your personality. But today I'm gonna be putting a little bit of pineapple, a little bit of basil, some spinach, some bell pepper, some mushrooms, and some onions. So let's get this chopped up and get it in this frying pan. these are coming along pretty good. Now, I personally like to put just a little bit of water in there, just so they have a little bit of a sautéing to them. Okay, we'll let them cook a little bit, and let's go ahead and start chopping up some of these other toppings. Okay, so I had my pizza crust in the oven at 475 for about 10 minutes. I tend to like a little bit more of a crispier crust, but you know, it's totally up to you. But let's go ahead and start putting the toppings on. So remember the sauce that we made from earlier. We'll just go ahead and start putting that on. And I like to use the back of a spoon because it just seems to smooth it out pretty good. All right. Now we'll go ahead and add those sauteed vegetables that I made earlier. Just kind of arrange them out a little bit evenly so it's all distributed. Okay, then I'll put a little bit of my basil. A little bit of the spinach. And then a little bit of my pineapple. Again, this is totally optional. It's just about your personality, what you like. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in the oven at 475. Okay, so I've just taken it out of the oven at 475 for about 20 minutes, and this looks fantastic. So let's go ahead and cut it up. And let's give it a try. Remember the Parmesan cheese that I made earlier? Let's put a little bit of that on there. It's gonna be great. And I like a little bit of pepper, but that's totally up to you. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a try. That's so good. Your family's gonna love this. Today I'm gonna be making vegetable barley soup in the slow cooker. I'm gonna be using some carrots, some zucchini, some celery, some great white beans, diced tomatoes, an onion, and of course some barley. But let's first go ahead and get started on chopping up these vegetables. Okay, now it's time to put in the rest of the ingredients. I usually put in a tablespoon of ground garlic, a tablespoon of dried parsley, a tablespoon of regular sugar, a couple bay leaves, and then a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. Now this is a Worcestershire sauce that I found at the local store that is vegan. It has no fish in it. A little bit of salt, of course some pepper. I have a can of diced tomatoes, a can of great white northern beans, 1 cup of barley. So I've got 32 ounces of vegetable broth and another 32 ounces of vegetable broth. And that's pretty much it. We'll go ahead and give it a stir. And we'll go ahead and put this on low for about 8 hours. Oh, this has been cooking all day, and let me tell you, it is making the house smell really nice. Let's check it out. Looking really good. Oh, that looks fantastic. Let's go ahead and check it out. Very good. I love the tomatoes in there. So good. Your family's gonna love it. Today, I'm gonna be making hummus from scratch. Now, you're probably gonna ask, why would you make hummus from scratch when you can just go to the grocery store and buy it? Well, the thing is about the hummus at the grocery store has a lot of olive oil in it, and we all know edible oils are not exactly that great for us. Now, my version lasts a little bit under a week in the refrigerator, but the stuff you buy in the grocery store can last a lot longer, so that makes me think that there's probably a lot of additives and preservatives in it. Now, today I'm going to be making it with a 15-ounce can of chickpeas that I've drained and rinsed. I've got a couple cloves of garlic, a little bit of lemon, and of course some vegetable broth. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I do is put my chickpeas in my food processor and then get started on mincing up my garlic. Okay, so now I like to add all my spices. I usually like to go with a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I like to put a half a teaspoon of tamari. It's totally optional, but I like a little bit of that tamari in there. A little bit of salt and pepper. I like to put in a little bit of flaxseed whenever I can. Put a little bit of ground flaxseed. It's like a teaspoon. Then I like to put in a tablespoon of tomato paste. This is totally optional. I just like that taste, just a little bit of that tomato, a little bit of that garlic in there. Okay, go ahead and cut up a lemon. Let's get my lemon juice in there. Okay, squeeze one half, and of course the other half. Then I've got some vegetable broth on the side ready to go, but let's put just a little bit in there to get it started. Okay, as you can see, it's a little dry, so I go ahead and put in a little bit more vegetable broth. Okay, and that's totally up to you. It's the consistency that you like. I don't like it so pasty, I like it a little bit more smooth. Let's get it off the sides. Okay, I'm gonna put a little bit more broth in there. This is looking really good now. Go ahead and put this on a bowl. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and cut out my pita. So I've got one of my pizza cutters, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut this up. And there you go. This is gonna be great. I can't wait. That's why I love all those spices in there. It's so good, but it's homemade. I know what's in it. That's the fun part about it.
I'm gonna enjoy this.
Today I'm going to be making Mexican tomato, beans, and rice. It's going to have some garlic, some jalapeno, lime, orange, some onion, some cilantro, fire roasted tomatoes, some lettuce, and of course 3 cans of black beans. But first, let's go ahead and get started on our rice. Okay, so first let's go ahead and start mincing up the onion, the jalapeno, and the garlic. Okay, let's add a little bit of water. Okay, so I like to put a couple tablespoons of cumin, 1 tablespoon of chili powder, okay, while this is sauteing, I want to put just a little bit of water. That buys me some time so I can get started on my sauce. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead on my butter sauce. I go with about 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast, 1/2 cup of unsweetened almond milk. Got some salt and pepper all ready to go. I'll give this a little stir. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We'll save this for later. Had to add a little bit of water. Give me some time while I work on my dressing. Now the dressing, I used white wine vinegar, about 3 tablespoons. I got a little bit of salt and pepper, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and of course the orange. So we'll go ahead and put the vinegar in there. A little bit of sugar, some salt and pepper, and of course, the orange. All right, and that's pretty much it with the dressing. It's a nice sweet, but yet sour, kind of tangy. Put that aside while I continue on the rest. Okay, now let's go ahead and add our fire roasted can of tomatoes. And of course, our 3 cans of black beans. Start warming all this up. Remember, if it gets a little too dry, go ahead and put a little bit of water in. Okay, so now that that's simmering, let's go ahead and cut up a little bit of lime. Okay, we'll cut up some cilantro. Okay, put a little bit of cilantro in there. Save this other half for the garnish. Let's go ahead and chop up some lettuce. Let's get this mixing in. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and check on our rice. Okay, so I've warmed up my butter sauce that I made earlier, so it's nice and warm. So I'm just gonna drizzle a little bit of the butter sauce on my rice. And I'm gonna go ahead and get some beans, tomatoes. A little bit of cilantro. I like a little bit of lettuce on there. And then my dressing. Give it a little bit of a stir. And put a little bit even on the lettuce. There you go. All right. Oh, this is gonna be nice. Just mix a little bit of that rice and beans in there. It's gonna be so good. So good. The dressing is awesome, but this is rice and beans, a little bit of tomato. It's so good. Our daughter's in her third year of medical school, and I asked her